our principal is stuck in traffic. He can't be here right now, so I'm going to have to do be the moderator. Exactly what I told you I didn't want to do. Let me have maybe a volunteer from someone who's not in our class to be our timekeeper. Okay? Thank you. Okay.
Right now.
You saw time? Did you get that? All right. So we've not flipped the coin? Okay. Why don't we'll just explain to everybody who's not in class. We've been working for about a month on this campaign project that's going to culminate in an election between Senator Iorio and John, what are you? Are you Senator? Governor. Okay. Period 1 from Joe and period 8 from John. They've written their entire platforms. They've done commercials, which you're going to see on Thursday in your classes. And today there's going to be a debate. Now let's just preface this a little bit. Joe, for 30 seconds, what is your background?
I'm Senator Joe Iorio. I'm a West Point. I went to West Point. I was born in North Carolina. I have 2 kids. My oldest son is going to trade school. My youngest is still in high school. Is that 30 seconds?
Introduce your wife.
That's my wife. And yeah, we're very excited to run for president.
Okay, John.
I was born in a rough neighborhood of the Bronx. I worked my way through public school to secure a full scholarship to NYU, where I majored in philosophy and history. Then I got my law degree from Columbia and worked as a labor lawyer and a union organizer, helping working people every day. I've served for the past 6 years as governor of New York, and our administration has made various reforms to make life better for the average Joe.
So we have rules for the debate. Okay, we have rules. Every response and every rebuttal is 1 minute. Okay, I'll read the question you have right in front of you. We're going to go in order. The first thing we do is we're going to flip a coin. Okay, and whoever wins the toss, you can either give your opening remark first or second. Then when that's done, we're going to re-flip for the questions. Okay? Got it? How old are you?
I'm 18.
How old are you?
17.
He's younger, he gets to choose. Hold it in the air. Heads or tails?
Heads.
We got John.
Heads.
Okay. So your choice. You want to go first or second?
I'll go second.
You want to go second? So Joe, you want first? We're ready when you're ready. So this is our opening statement, okay? And you time this for a minute, okay? When it's a minute, just say time, okay? Speak up.
All right.
You're on.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for deciding to come here. If you were forced to come here, thanks for cooperating. It's better than taking part. So, without further ado, the progress of America is what will keep peace and freedom around the world. As an American and a patriot, I'm not satisfied with the current status of our country. This is a great country, but it could be greater. This is a strong country, but it could be stronger. And this is a powerful country, but it could be more powerful. As a great president once said, it is not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. We must regain our pride as hardworking Americans and strive towards making this a country where our schools are second to none, where our families can feel economically stable, and where we are still seen as the land of opportunity for all. Thank you for hearing me speak. Good luck to John, and thank you, Mr. Moderator.
You're on, Governor.
Sure thing. Good morning, everyone here. To sum up our general position, we stand for progress. The past few decades have seen several steps backward, selling off important social services to big business, putting them at the mercy of an ever-changing market. Governments must stand up and say no more. No more gambling with our children's future, with our pension plans, with our houses and our lives. The way forward is not through fear, greed, and privatization, but through compassion and hope. I'll see you guys.
So we are going to reflip.
Sure.
the opportunity to answer the first question, and then we'll go on to maybe more. Okay? You should introduce your campaign manager. You want to introduce your campaign manager?
Yes, my campaign manager, Julia McCarthy.
And my campaign manager, Robert Zajac.
Yeah.
Okay, you got to fall over here now, okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a nice plan, Rob.
Yeah.
You can put it.
You got it, Tails.
Who would like to go second?
Okay, so that means he's going to take the first, he's going to answer the first question, and you're going to rebut it, and then we flip-flop all the way down. Okay? Okay. Our first question, I guess this is for you, Governor. What changes, if any, in tax policy do you plan to make, and how will that help fund the programs of your presidency?
Well, our primary goal for tax reform, which is so desperately needed in our country, is to make sure that the wealthiest tax bracket is paying their fair share. So, our plan is to raise taxes on the wealthy to 50%, as it was in the 80s under President Ronald Reagan. That will help pay for our many advancements in social programs and our payments on Social Security and our payments for education increases. And we're also going to remove the cap that exists on payroll taxes. Right now, a large portion of the income of wealthy Americans is not fully taxed for Social Security. And if we remove that cap, Social Security could remain solvent for decades. And finally, we intend to close tax loopholes and penalize businesses that utilize tax shelters. Because if you ask me, nothing's more unpatriotic than that.
Senator?
In my platform, I'm going to cut government waste. I'm going to support programs that will make real change, not a penny of tax dollars shall be going unused. $4 billion in funding has been wasted on Medicaid that was not used. There was $16 billion in military equipment that ended up being used unusable. Sorry. I believe that because of this waste, raising taxes is not our solution. I think it's regardless of our economic status. I push for Made in America, raising taxes on imports and not raising taxes on exports. Outsourced companies do not pay as high taxes as companies in America, and we need to have tax breaks for small businesses to boost the economy. With taxes reduced, businesses will thrive and put more tax money back into the government.
Okay. Move to the second question. So, Governor, you will answer first. Excuse me. Yeah, Governor, you'll answer first. Number two.
So,
It's the other way around.
Yes.
Okay. Go. How will your proposed tax policy affect businesses both local and large scale?
Providing tax cuts to small businesses will provide flexibility towards owners to spend more money and invest in their company. This stimulates the economy by using more of the country's resources and lowering unemployment and placing more money into the government. As John said in his first answer, that he wants to eliminate the FICA cap. This is what withholds money for Medicaid and Social Security. This essentially would result in the largest increase of taxes in the United States by raising $505 billion in over 5 years and almost $1.2 trillion over 10 years. Eliminating FICA requires you to withhold 3 separate taxes from the wages that you pay in your employee jobs. To reduce take-home pay of 10.4 million workers by the average of $4,907.
well, to start off, the accusation that the removal of the FICA cap would harm average Americans is blatantly untrue. The very nature of it is that it only affects the wealthiest Americans. Only a small percentage of Americans would even be affected by the tax. Those making above the current limit on money tax. And our tax platform for businesses we are pro-small business. We want to lower taxes for small business. We want to encourage growth on a community level. However, we also need to remove the current status of wealthy corporations who currently pay less tax than you are up in income. I think this is a great mistake and something that has to be corrected right now.
Okay, moving along. Number 3, what do you plan to do to make higher education more accessible? Governor?
Well, much like my opponent, we plan to institute a system of free community. Also, we intend to pass a law that will cap the interest rates for student loans at 4%. We already have a cap on money and loans for investments for Wall Street bankers. I think it's ridiculous that we don't have something in place to support our students. We also intend to increase the money for Pell Grants by $5 million to give thousands more Americans opportunity and the ability to fund their education. I see the rest of my time. Okay.
Like John, well, like Governor McCullough, we intend on running with the idea of free community college. I didn't get an applause, I'm sorry. Also, we'd like to support trade schools. Trade schools are the future of America because not every person is in need of the higher college education. We need the hardworking American who's going to make a very well-off middle-class life. We also believe that loans should be based off of income. Limit should be placed on loans that are currently unlimited, like PLUS loans, which are federal loans that grant or professional degree students and parents of dependent undergraduate students use to help pay educational expenses.
Okay. Our next question. How do you propose to evaluate student and teacher performance at the K-12 level? Senator, you're starting off. I'm dying to hear your answer.
Well, we believe that if a teacher does not perform well, if a teacher does perform well, that they should be eligible for promotion, and if a teacher does not perform well, they should be at risk of penalties or possibly being fired. Tenure should not be a factor. Teachers should not be allowed to have failing students simply because they have been teaching for a long time. In the private sector, inadequate work is inexcusable and regardless of age. I believe this to be true. Now, the #1 priority is the knowledge that is being brought to our students. We need teachers who are going to do that, no matter how old they get and no matter how secure their job is. They need to teach our students.
Governor.
Now, I would like to make one point that my opponent brought up. I hear a lot about the private sector and it's what it can teach us about our education system. But usually this amounts to some kind of crockpot education reform that really means handing over our education system to private businesses, just like the same people who are trying to do this are trying to hand over our prisons to private businesses. And privatization is not the answer. The real answer is that we need in-class evaluation of teachers. We need teachers and students to be having conversations to really contribute to their own education. The main decisions made about a child's education are not made in a boardroom with a bunch of CEOs. It's made in the classroom between a teacher and a student.
Okay, Governor, you have the next question. What is the best way to utilize the information obtained by evaluating students and teachers?
Well, we utilize the information we receive to inform basic guidelines for education. However, as mentioned, we do feel the need for there to be some freedom for student-teacher interactions because in my personal education, and I think many of my colleagues would agree with this, we felt that the best times we've learned didn't happen when going through some rigid, required curriculum. It was through having conversations with our teachers, hearing their perspective, and allowing it to inform ours, and really having that dialogue. And I feel like that is underrepresented in our education system today, or at least in the planning boards for alternative systems of education. I see the rest of my time.
Senator.
In my opening statement, I said that our schooling should be second to none. We are trying to make our schooling system better, obviously. Now, simply seeing what works and doesn't work provides insight for administration and teachers to pinpoint problems. It would help improve areas that are deficient in schools, such as student strengths and weaknesses in education. Documenting the level of knowledge and ability to teach for teachers is done through the many evaluations that are observed by the administration and for students in their participation. As I said before, we want to not only focus on the basic school skills, but if schools are inspiring students to fostering their creativity.
Okay. Senator, you're up. For the first time in 20 years, the United States is producing more oil domestically than abroad. What is your stance on domestic oil production?
Oh, there's not. I believe oil is a necessary element for humans. However, I am not opposed to using green forms of energy as well. As the United States produces more oil, economy grows and unemployment decreases. We will not have to rely on foreign sources, and it will create more jobs of the newfound oil. Oil for America is to use as well as to export and profit. America needs to be self-sufficient as possible. Relying on foreign assistance puts us at the mercy of the international oil markets.
Governor.
We are open to expanding the potential for American energy, of course. But we also recognize that we have a duty to our children to conserve our planet. And that means we're not willing to go to drastic measures such as hydrofracturing, which has led to heavily polluted water in rural areas. I've heard stories of people whose tap water has had so much gas in it that it could ignite. These are real problems facing real people. Our government would seek to look into more alternative forms of energy. And we've already made some grounds in real places in the world. Germany is the most efficiently, in regards to energy, run place in the world. California is miles ahead of the rest of the country. We need to implement real green policies. In fact, today, there are, for the first time ever, more solar jobs than coal jobs in the United States.
Okay, Governor, you lead off with the next question. What do you believe should be the government's role in the healthcare system?
Well, our administration would support a single-payer healthcare system in which the government collects fees and pays costs. There would be no co-pay, and it would be funded through tax money in the aforementioned tax increase. Now, the most interesting part of this is that 95% of Americans would pay less for health care if we implemented a single-payer system. All of you would be better off. The only reason we don't have one today is because of complete domination by lobbyists over of healthcare companies over insurance legislation.
Senator.
Yes. I believe that healthcare should remain privatized, unlike my opponent. Now, the government cannot tell us what we can and cannot buy. The government is policy. The government is forcing us to pay for our health care. Now, I believe it's a problem that our government's telling us to buy something, and if we don't buy it, that we'll be fined. I think that's a complete violation of our rights as American citizens, and it's just, it's not right. Well, the uninsured people are raising the cost even further because insured Americans, doctors, and health care facilities are not shouldering that cost.
All right. Senator, you start off with the next question. What do you believe is the best solution to our current border crisis?
Well, catching illegal immigrants is far too expensive. So our policy is that we need to make the legalization or the citizenship process more simple. It needs to be easier. Now, I know that as a conservative, everyone thinks that we want to push all the illegals out. That's not true. As in my platform, we would like to push towards the citizenship process that everyone can become a citizen. This is the land of opportunity, and to become a citizen is what we need to happen.
Governor.
Well, first, I take issue with the idea that we have a border crisis. Immigration has had numerous benefits to our country economically and only serves to expand our GDP. We have more people in our economy spending and working. In fact, the only reason that we don't currently have a declining national population is because, our natural birth rate is actually low, as is most of the Western world. The only reason that we are not decreasing in population is because of the enormous amount of immigrants we see. I also take issue with the term illegals, because how could human beings be considered illegal? The national boundaries that divide us do not have precedence over people's ability to see economic opportunity and make lives better for themselves and their families. We need to keep families together and truly live up to the American dream by opening our borders to those that would love to help us to prosper.
Governor, you're leading off the next question.
Sure.
Okay. Do you believe that defense spending should be a cornerstone of the federal budget?
Now, we intend to cut defense spending where it is wasteful, as Joe was pointing out. We would like to focus more on our domestic issues. However, of course, we have debts to be paid to our allies. We do have duties to them, and those will be maintained. The threat of ISIS will be contained. However, we have plenty of problems at home abroad. So under a McCullough presidency, there would be no more military expansion. However, the one area of defense spending that would be increased would be veterans benefits, because we need to take care of the people who have been willing to go overseas and risk their lives for our liberty.
Now, I agree with Governor McCullough that internal issues come first. However, it is our duty as the United States to protect peace around the world, because we're the only country capable of doing so. Now, with John McCullough's plan, he plans on cutting $230 billion, leaving us with $10 billion for our defense spending. Now, this would not only risk our lives as U.S. citizens, but it would risk the world's freedom. In 2012, it cost $150 billion for personal pay and housing of our troops alone. That's half of your budget. Now, I believe that's a problem. How are we supposed to defend ourselves? Because there is evil in the world, and we must defend ourselves. It is a priority, and it is a necessity.
Senator, you start the next question.
Sure thing.
Senator. How do you plan to address gaps in economic and social opportunities experienced by minorities?
Fixing the socioeconomic issues of minorities begins at home. Social programs should be at the heart of closing the gap between opportunities for all Americans. I want a country that, no matter what, hardworking will yield success. My platform regarding improving healthcare, bettering schools, and strengthening our immigration policy will all have positive effects on this issue, as in free community college or trade schools. Offering our programs in skill training as college-level schooling is not always necessary for success. This will create a more motivated working class.
Governor?
Well, our plan is to, first of all, increase spending on education in low-income areas, specifically very low-income areas populated mostly by minorities. Now, we need to allow in these areas, as the solution would be everywhere, for smaller class sizes, for more one-on-one conversations between teachers and students, to really give minorities better educational opportunities. Also, we plan to institute tougher hate crime and anti-discrimination laws so that people can protect the opportunity that they fought so hard to receive. I'll see the rest of my time.
Okay, this is our final question before your closing, your closing statements. And Governor, here you go. What is your stance on organized labor initiatives?
Strongly support. Unions built this country and the modern middle class. Wages for everyday Americans have stagnated since union membership has fallen in the 1980s. Like a great man once said, the only way to confront organized greed is through organized labor. In fact, the many successes of the labor movement have been seen today. Your parents' wages, all because people were willing to fight and die for the right to work and the right to a fair wage. In fact, if it weren't for unions and their push for the 5-day business week, you'd all be in school on Saturday. I see the rest of my time.
Senator.
Now, John's platform relies heavily on repealing the Taft-Hartley Act. Now, under the Taft-Hartley Act, it is illegal to refuse anyone a job or fire them because they won't join a union. Now, I believe that a person should have the right to work because they're qualified for that job, not because they have to join a union. Now, under the TH Act, our position without these workers could strike whenever they wanted. No work would get done, and supervisors who work hard to get to where they are undermined. Overall, economy is stunted, and we are not against strikes, only unnecessary strikes that undermine this economy.
Okay, it's now time for your closing statements. Because you're doing pretty well on time, I'll expand the time to 2 minutes if you like. Okay? In our opening statement, Tom, you went first? So Joe, you will make your closing statement now. So you have 2 minutes if you feel like. Okay?
First off, I would like to thank the moderator, Mr. DiGregorio, for taking the time to organize this debate. I would also like to thank my opponent for this productive exchanging of ideas. And I would like to end by saying that I'm an open-minded person. I respect the fact that everyone has a right to express their opinion, and I'm open to hearing all ideas and discussing my own. Whether it be my campaign manager or a person on the streets, my opponent believes that I cannot think for myself. However, he simply does not understand how a team works. I have a strong team behind me, and I am grateful to them for all the talent that they have brought to this campaign. One man cannot run a country, and one man's ideas are not absolute. John McCullough, also known as Eggs and Marxism, is a man who is more focused on his unwavering ideals than on doing whatever it takes to make this country better. You may disagree with some of my policies, but you cannot doubt my love for this country. God bless America.
At JoyOreo44. Now, I've said my piece. You get my point. I feel as though my patriotism has been put to question several times during this debate. However, I'd like to make a point. The way I see it, patriotism is not wearing a flag or waxing poetic about freedom and being the world's policeman. Patriotism is simple things, like paying your taxes so that an inner city kid can get a reduced price school lunch so he doesn't have to go to bed hungry. It's recognizing that your country has problems and being fully committed to solving them, to be willing to lend a hand to your countrymen and treat all of them with the respect they deserve. Now, our goal is to create an economy that is more democratic, more accessible, and that really works for the average person. Our healthcare plan will lower costs for the large majority of Americans and would ensure that every single person in this country would be covered. I do not view a foreign policy where America remains the world's policeman, but where it takes charge in leading peace and diplomacy and making the world safe for future generations of all countries. We intend to make sure that the people who are already doing well pay their fair share so they can lend a hand to people who aren't. That is our goal. That's what we intend to set out to do. Thank you.
All right, let's take a round of applause for both our candidates.